my dear children. Welcome to your biology class. So in the ninth chapter we have covered few main topics. The first one we learned was about the mode of reproduction. So dear children, which are the two modes of reproduction? Yes, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction, isn't it? Then we learned about fertilization. We learned there are two types of fertilization. Which are the two types of fertilization? Yes, internal fertilization and external fertilization. We learned the organisms which shows the internal and external fertilization. Later, we start learning about the reproduction in human beings. We learned about the reproductive organ in males, reproductive organ in females, and in last class, yesterday, we learned the fertilization happening in the human beings. I hope all of you are going through the textbook along with these portions. In today's class, we are going to learn a small topic, that is development of embryo in hen. So yesterday we learned the development of embryo in humans, isn't it? Today we are going to learn the development of embryo in hen. And after this topic, teacher will give you a few instructions regarding the post-midterm exam which we are going to write next week. So let's start our class. Development of embryo. So all of us are familiar with hen, isn't it? You have seen the hens and cocks around your house, isn't it? And you know how the hens are reproducing the chicks. How is a hen reproducing the chick? Yes, by laying eggs, isn't it? So hens have eggs and this eggs hatch into the chicks, isn't it? And when we learn about the type of fertilization, we learn there are two types of fertilization. Which are the two types of fertilization, dear children? Yes, internal fertilization and external fertilization, isn't it? And we learned the examples of organisms showing the internal and external fertilization. We learned human, cat, dog, all the mammals are showing internal fertilization. Birds, reptiles, fertilization. Hen is showing internal fertilization. What mode of fertilization is shown by the hen? Yes, internal. They are showing internal fertilization. We also learned the organisms which are showing internal fertilization give birth to the young ones, isn't it? But whereas though hens are showing internal fertilization, they are not giving birth. Instead, they are laying the eggs. Now let's learn how the hens are laying eggs after this internal fertilization. So, though internal fertilization happens, the result of what will be the result of the fertilization? Yes, fertilization will be lead to the formation of, yes, fertilization lead to the formation of, yes, zygotes, isn't it? Zygotes, isn't it? So, internal fertilization in hen leads to the formation of zygote. As in all organisms, the fertilization leads to the formation of zygotes in hens also. So, we learned in humans and other mammals, the internal fertilization is happening in fallopian tube, isn't it? Fallopian tube is also called, yes, oviduct, isn't it? So, this internal fertilization is happening in oviduct. Oviduct. Internal fertilization is happening in oviduct. Now, children, you may get confused with the about the parts of the female and male reproductive organ if you don't have gone through the textbook and if you haven't revised it along with this video. Oviduct is also called fallopian tube or oviduct. So, now what is sperm duct? Which part is called sperm duct? Yes, the vasa deferens is called sperm duct in male reproductive organ. So, likewise, in female reproductive organ, oviduct. Oviduct is the region where the fertilization happens in those organisms which shows internal fertilization, like mammals, like humans, cat, dogs, etc. Isn't it? So in a hen also internal fertilization happens in the oviduct. So zygote is formed in the oviduct. Now what happens as the fertilization happens? Last day we learned in the fertilization of humans. After the fertilization in humans, what will happen? The zygote will form embryo and embryo will move into the uterus region in humans. So likewise in hen also the zygote will form divide into embryo and embryo will start to move from the oviduct to the uteral region. Now during this travel, that is from the oviduct to the uterine region, a protective layer is formed around the zygote. Suppose this is the zygote formed inside the oviduct of the hen. When it moves from oviduct to uterine area, that is uterus, what will happen? It will get a protective layer. See, the teacher is just demonstrating. It will get a protective layer. So now the zygote is inside a protective layer. Now after what happens is the hard shell we see in hen's egg is formed from this protective layer. This protective layer will develop into hard shell of egg. The hard shell of the egg. Now what happened is there is a zygote and around the zygote there is a protective layer. After sometimes what happens? The protective layer gets harder. That hard covering develop into the hard shell of the hen's egg. Now during this stage, that is zygote with hard shell, the hen lays the eggs. After laying eggs, what happens? It takes almost 3 weeks. It almost takes 3 weeks for the development of the embryo. So the egg will take almost 3 weeks. So you may have seen the hens hatching the chicks, isn't it? So that is because the embryo development take almost 3 weeks. So during this 3 weeks, what happens is hen sit on these eggs. They are sitting in order to provide sufficient warmth. In order to provide sufficient warmth or heat to the egg. So this process of giving sufficient warmth by sitting on the eggs, it is incubation. What is it called? What is it called? Incubation. Incubation. So, incubation period, this 3 weeks of embryo development is called incubation. During this period, the hen sit on the eggs in order to get hatched. The embryo develop and thus the chicks comes out. When the embryo develop into a small chick and the complete development is over, the chick will come out of the egg and that process is called, yes, hatching, isn't it? Hatching. After incubation, hatching happens, isn't it? So this is the way how the insects, this is the way how the birds, insects, etc. Lay their eggs. So this is the way of internal fertilization happening in reptiles and few birds and also insects. We'll again explain the process, that is by after internal fertilization, zygote will be formed and the zygote for egg-laying birds, the zygote will be surrounded by a protective layer. Later this protective layer get hardened into the eggshell. Now and it takes almost 3 weeks for the hens and the incubation period, that is the bird or the hen will sit on the eggs and provide enough sufficient warmth and it will cause the hatching. When the embryo mature into a young one, that is here the chick, it will hatch and this process is similar for few insects, reptiles and egg-laying birds. Most the young ones of animals, birds, etc. are looking similar, isn't it? That is, if a hen lays 10 eggs and it got hatched most the young ones, all the young ones will be looking alike, isn't it? But only in few animals like frogs and insects like mosquito, they have different phases of life. They have different phases for the development of the young ones. All other animals, all other birds and animals have similar young ones, and these young ones will mature into grow into, and these young ones will grow into adults, isn't it? So dear children, I hope all of you understood about the development of embryo in hen. Rest of the portion in this chapter we will discuss in the next class. Let's revise what we have learned in today's class using the Digi video.
In hen, internal fertilization takes place in hens also. Soon after fertilization, the zygote divides repeatedly and travels down the oviduct. As it travels down, many protective layers are formed around it. The hard shell that we see in a hen's egg is one such protective layer. After the hard shell is formed around the developing embryo, the hen finally lays the egg. The embryo takes about 3 weeks to develop into a chick. The hen sits on the eggs to provide sufficient warmth. The development of the chick takes place inside the egg during this period. After the chick is completely developed, it bursts open the egg shell. Chick comes out of the egg shell and undergoes the development process. Similarly, young ones of insects, reptiles, and other birds hatch from eggs. Young ones to adults. The new individuals which are born or hatched from the eggs continue to grow till they become adults. Mostly the young ones have similar shape and structure as their parents, but in some cases the young ones look different from the adults. Animals like frogs, mosquitoes and butterflies have different stages of development between hatching of eggs and the formation of an adult individual.
So dear children, before concluding, I like to give you few instructions for the post-midterm exam, which is on next week. On 16th, you are having your science exam. We are following the same pattern of last time, that is half-yearly exam. You have to write the biology as separate paper and physical science as separate paper. So make sure that you write the science with two front sheets, that is for physical science and biology. Last time few of you have mistaken it. Few of you have written it together. So this time don't do like that. And this you need to submit. This time for the post-midterm exam, having just one chapter to learn, that is chapter 8. So you have to learn the chapter 8 as such full. While learning, go through the textual activities. Learn well about the parts of cell organelles. Learn well about the cell organelles, the function of cell organelles, and the structure of cell organelles. Biology paper is out of 15. Friend, prepare well for the exam. And this time also you are writing your exam from your home. So be serious. Write exam as if you are writing from the classroom. Don't do any cheating. Present your answer sheets neatly with good cursive handwriting. This time you have 1 mark for the cursive hands and neatness of the paper. All the best for your exam. See you in next class. Thank you.